2020 meeting of the Saugeen Shores Committee of Adjustment, and I now call this meeting to order. Our second item on the agenda is any acknowledgement of any pecuniary interest. You either can bring it up now or at a time that it appears on the agenda. Item number 3 is the adoption of minutes. May I have a motion to move the minutes? Moved by Mr. Legault and seconded by Deputy Mayor Matheson. Any discussion about the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. I'm unaware of any additional business, so we shall move into item number 5, which is the public hearings. And item number 5.1 is a minor variance A-2020-056 for Brent Leveley with the municipal address in the former town of Southampton of 100 Grosvenor Street South. Ms. Mugabe.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll share my screen.
I'm not able to hear Barbara.
No. Barbara, can you hear us? We can't hear you.
I'll share my screen. How's that? Makes it a little easier. You can focus on the presentation. I'll do the slides. So I don't know. We'll do a test, audio test for Barbara. See if that worked at all. No.
Barbara, maybe change your microphone input to same as system. See if that works under the little arrow beside the microphone.
Testing.
All right.
Hear you now.
You heard it. I'll start
Okay.
sharing, and then we'll get back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, so the subject land is situated at the intersection of Grosvenor Street and Morpeth Street in Southampton. The next slide. This photo shows the front view of the 10-unit apartment building that's on the site. I understand it was built around 1900. This is the exterior side yard of the dwelling. It's the side that faces Morpeth Street. This slide shows the rear of the dwelling. The outdoor stair that you see was recently constructed. It's an exit stair to unit number 7. The subject land is within the residential neighborhood. Servicing is by municipal water and sewers and accessed via Grosvenor Street, which is a year-round municipal road. The purpose of the application is to facilitate the extension of a deck and to recognize an existing outdoor exit stairway The application seeks to reduce the exterior side yard setback for the deck from 6 meters to 1.2 meters, and the rear yard setback for the exit stair from 7.5 meters to 4.8 meters. The subject land is designated primary urban communities in the Bruce County official plan and residential in the local official plan. The zoning is residential fourth density, R4. The town of Saugeen Shores has commented that this property was subject to a minor variance application in 2014, which established the setbacks, parking, and number of dwelling units as they currently exist. They have no objection if there is no increase in the number of units and no alteration to the site works, the number of parking spaces, or a decrease in landscaped open space, except for that required to accommodate the deck and stairs. There are no issues raised by other agencies and departments. We received comments from members of the public. The comment raised was that the staircase has already been constructed. There were some concerns expressed that the tenants will congregate on the landing and staircase, that there are previous concerns with beer cans and cigarette butts scattered around the back and side of the building. A question was asked, is the deck at ground level, or how high is it off the ground? There were questions about social gatherings and the playing of music all day long. Someone asked who has access to the deck. I responded to these questions and comments in the staff report. The issue of cigarette butts and beer cans scattered on the ground and tenants congregating on the staircase is not an issue that can be addressed through land use planning. The deck will be 10 feet above ground. The owner has now reduced the size of the deck down to 16 feet by 20 feet from 16 by 30. The deck is only for use of unit number 7, is what I understand, and there's no exterior stair leading to it. The stair at the rear is strictly an exit stair, again for unit number 7. Now on to the 4 tests of a minor variance. Test number 1. Does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the official plan? The official plan policy permits residential uses on the subject property, including the existing 10-unit apartment dwelling. The variance maintains the intent and purpose of the official plan. Test number 2. The application indicates that the building was, as I mentioned, constructed in 1900. The deficiency relating to the exterior side yard is a reflection of what's currently on the site, and this will not be exaggerated by the proposed deck. Approving a reduced exterior side yard will not affect the functionality of the site. The deficiency to the rear yard is due to the outdoor stairway that has been recently constructed. I understand it was built just last month in November. In this regard, there is still sufficient side and rear yard setback to allow for maintenance purposes. The porches and decks afford the tenant some amenity space that is typically provided by the backyard. With respect to test number 3, is the variance requested desirable for the appropriate and orderly development and use of the lands and buildings? Outside decks add aesthetic appeal to the exterior of buildings and can also serve as secondary access to a unit. The exit access stairway can be considered part of an accessible means of egress and an emergency exit. For these reasons, the application is desirable to the landowner. Respecting public interest, it is not expected that the exit stairway and proposed deck will have any negative effects to the functionality of the site. Respecting the last of the tests, is the variance minor in nature? What is the impact on surrounding property owners, on the environment, and on municipal functions? It is not expected that permitting the variance will have any impact on the character of the area or impact on the ability of adjacent property owners to use their property for permitted uses. There is also no impact to municipal functions or to the environment. The proposed application meets all 4 tests of a minor variance. It is minor in nature. A summary. This minor variance is requested to facilitate the construction of a deck and to recognize an exit outdoor stairway. The application is consistent with the provincial policy statement. It upholds the objectives of the Saugeen Shores official plan and represents good land use planning. The application satisfies the four tests of a minor variance. We are recommending approval subject to the conditions on the decision sheet. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Mugabe. Is the applicant present on the meeting?
No.
No. Is there any comments from any of the public who wishes to do so? Not seeing anyone there. Then we'll, committee, any questions or comments? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a number of questions and a couple of comments. I guess my first question, and this would be to Barbara, I suppose. When was the application submitted or received?
I can check that. Just a minute while I check that.
Barbara, it's Dan Kingsbury here. It was received mid-October,
Okay.
approximately.
October 13th, 2020.
Okay, thank you. And were both the stairway and the deck included in the application at the time it was received in mid-October?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, they were both included in the application.
Okay, and so then according to your presentation, the stairway was built in November after the application was received and before permission was granted by this committee.
That's correct.
Okay. I've got a couple of other questions. It's my understanding that, and maybe I'm incorrect, is the stairway only for the use of one unit?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's what I understand. I understand it's for unit number 7.
And that's the same case with the deck?
The same case with the deck as well, yes.
Okay. I understand that from the comments of one of the neighbors that the lights from the stairwell that were installed for safety reasons are shine into her bedroom and are disruptive at night. What I'd like to say that is, if this application is approved by this committee, I'd like the committee to consider including a condition attached, which so that staff works with the applicant to mitigate the effects of the light on the neighbors as much as possible. What was the other question? Also, the deck. It's my understanding from your report, Barbara, that also is really just for the use of Unit 7?
Yes, as an exit stairway. That's what I understand.
Okay. Oh, no, the deck, I mean, at the front.
Oh, I see. Yes, the deck is for unit number 7, yes.
Okay. From if we could look for a minute at the picture of the back of the building, I think it was the third picture that you showed us. Is the width of the stairway the same as the width of this, whatever this construction is, to the south of the stairway? Is that an entranceway or kind of a lobby or something? I can't tell from that if the width of the whole stairway construction is the same.
I'm not sure. I didn't get around to that side of the building.
Okay, well, to me, it would be, I think, significant if that had the same setback permitted as the stairway. We don't know if the setback is maybe somebody can come back to that with an answer for us. I have a question, just since no neighbors are present, I won't go along with my comments about noise. To Jay, a question, or maybe Barbara. At one point in, I think, 2014 and an earlier, I think that was the earlier application for variances, permission was granted to have a parking space at the back. And I'm wondering, we received a complaint, I think from one person about their frustration with the noise and the exhaust of the vehicles parked at the back of the building. Would it be possible to put as one of our conditions a resubmission of the parking plan?
Well, I think if you think it can be reasonably tied to your approval and to the requests that are being made, then I think you may make that a condition, and that the parking plan be resubmitted and approved by the town, or whoever you want to have it approved by, council or staff or whomever you think is more appropriate.
Okay, so it has to be a logical connection between that and
The request.
I guess it might be an additional, if we're talking about the effect on the neighbors as being one of the factors, that the stairway, that may be a way of mitigating the effect of the noise that people have complained about from the stairway. I don't know. I have to say, this is a comment that I want to make, is that I am frustrated by a recurring pattern of individuals who seem to knowingly violate the zoning bylaw intentionally. In this case, since the applicant submitted the application with the request to build the stairway, and before that permission was granted, went ahead and did it anyway. I'm frustrated and I'm troubled by that. Our zoning bylaw allows for fines of up to $25,000 for a violation of the zoning bylaw, as well as the order to remove or alter the structure which was constructed without a permit. And this stairway was constructed without a permit. Jay, to your knowledge, has a municipality ever levied a monetary fine to uphold the zoning bylaw?
To my knowledge, the process to collect on those fines isn't like a ticket, writing a ticket for parking, for example. It's a more cumbersome. My understanding is we have to make a submission to a court, and the court has to decide, firstly, if the violation existed to the extent that it impeded the efficient development of the land, if the town acted fairly. I think normal arguments for in that regard, and then the court can decide on the fine. It's never gone as high as that much. As far as I know, I've heard of $500, a few $100s here and there. So I can't say that I've been directly involved. That's just how I've perceived it from 20 feet down the hallway.
Well, I know that our municipality tries to work things out as amicably as possible with people in situations like this. But I also think that it seems to me that I've observed situations where that spirit of collaboration seems to be taken advantage of. My question about the width of the stairway, the reason I'm going back to that is if it's the same setback as the other piece of the construction, to me, I think that then that's not a significant departure in terms of a setback. But I don't know what the fair resolution for this is. To me, this is a clear breach of the zoning bylaw. And I look forward to hearing other members of the committee's comments, please. Yeah.
Mr. Posner.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the frustration in builders and people that break the rules. I guess my caution is, and this is just my perspective, I'm certainly don't have any legal opinion on this, is that the committee's task is to evaluate the application and the request for the variances that are requested. There are other tools that municipality has. If they want to enforce the bylaw, as I described, they can try seeking, to collect on a fine for that sort of penalty, or any of the other issues that are often discussed at the committee are often subject to other bylaws, like our noise bylaw, and they're not all things that this committee can have an effect on. Though you can certainly have empathy, I want to be cautious about what the powers of the committee are. That's all. But you can have the fulsome discussion. That's certainly fair.
Mr. Posner, I have a question about the stairway. Is it conforming?
Does the stairway conform to the setback or to
To a setback that doesn't require a decision?
Not my understanding. My understanding is that the encroachments, there are certain encroachments permitted, but they're already, the building itself, the rear line of the building already is not compliant. So any encroachment into the rear yard requires some relief from the bylaw. They have requested 4.8 meter setback. If they don't comply, then they'd have to shave off a portion of that stairwell, if that was the nature of the question.
I'm finding it troublesome that this stairway has been built without a permit, and we have an applicant that's requesting more after the fact. Any other committee members have any comments? Deputy Mayor Matheson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. I too have, and I voiced my opinions on this for the last 2 years. I have concerns about the changes that builders and developers do. They ask for one thing and then all of a sudden it changes again. I understand what you're saying, Jay. This application is about a variance. But they did build the stairwell without approval. Has it been taken a look at by the building department to see that it meets the standards? I imagine it does, but does it meet it? My question is, looking at this picture, where is the deck going to go? Is it in front of the stairwell, or is it in this section? Whereabouts? Does it go to the north end of the house from the deck?
Sorry, which way does the stairwell lead? Like the direction you climb up the stairs?
No, I want to know where the deck is going to go.
Oh, so let's get another picture then. The deck from the south face, Barbara, you can correct me. It would be on this unit that's the top unit that's facing Grosvenor Street, that's closest to Morpeth. And so the deck is in this area. There's a white railing you can see here as sort of the little veranda, but it's an enlargement of this portion over in this vicinity in the southern.
I thought the deck was for Unit 7 as well.
It is.
Would that be in the center? That's
at the back.
But as Unit 7 come to the front, this is the picture that we're looking at right now is the western exposure. Can you confirm that middle door on the top floor is Unit 7?
Well, I only have the information that was submitted with the application. I haven't been in the building. But the way the drawing is, that Unit 7 is that north upper floor facing Morpeth.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long time since I've been in this building. I know there's apartments downstairs, there's the main floor, and then there's upper floor. How many apartments in this unit is altogether, Jay or Barbara or Daniel?
10 units.
10 units?
Yes.
Okay, so they want to put a deck on the front in the middle there where there already is a deck? Or are they just replacing that one?
They're enlarging that one.
They're enlarging it. So how much larger?
About twice as wide and twice as deep, I guess.
Twice as wide, so it'll go out to past the windows on both sides and it'll come out. So does that not pose a hazard to the door opening with the deck being above that with materials coming down, snow, ice, or will it be a closed-in deck? I need some more of that information before I understand it, but if they're expanding it at the front here, where will the supports go? Because we have a door well on the north side of there. Where will the beams come down? What's going to stop anything from coming through? Is it an open deck? Is it a closed deck?
Well, I don't have the building plans. Certainly those
Yeah.
are the building departments to confirm the structural integrity and the safety of the structure in terms of its design elements, like the type of railing. I don't have that information. The applicant has not submitted that information.
Okay, I understand what he's asking for here, but until we get those, I can't support this motion at the time. We need to know that it's going to be conforming, that it's going to look after everything.
Ms. Kuntz?
Yes, you had requested comments from other members. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to just concur with Councillor Grace with regard to asking the town, if this is accepted or if the minor variance is approved, to ask the town to include a condition that the back stairway lights be adjusted to mitigate the effects of light on its nearest neighbors. And I share the concern about the stairwell having been built prior to a permit or the minor variance being granted. And I also share concerns about the front balcony or the balcony on the other side of the building facing west. I think it's going to cast quite a large shadow on the unit windows below that. I don't know where the posts supporting that are going to be on the lawn there facing the parking lot. I imagine it would provide a great view of the lake up there, but I also wonder if that's just one unit out of a 10-unit building, will there be a future request for other enlarged balconies? I don't know whether this is a rental property, whether that's just the owner that lives in Unit 7, or how is this going to affect the rest of the building? Certainly it will look asymmetrical from the street, not that that's necessarily our concern, but I do see this sort of creating a precedent or a situation where a future development may follow from this. Those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Posner?
I just want to address the comment about future submissions. If they want to add a deck, for example, along the entire frontage, they could, because not all of the deck, you're not approving rather the deck isn't what's non-compliant, it's the setback of a portion of the deck that's abutting Morpeth. I think it's only 10 feet of the deck that would be requesting that setback relief. If they wanted to build it all the way across the front face, they could, but they just have chosen not to propose that.
I don't see any other members. I only have on the screen. Is anybody else from the committee wish to address?
I would.
Councillor Rich.
Yeah, and I think that in light of the comments made by Councillor Grace and Deputy Mayor Matheson, I'd like to put a motion on the floor to defer this until we get more information and until we can get assurances that there's going to be changes that will make it more palatable to the neighbors and to the community.
Your seconder for that motion, seconded by Deputy Mayor Matheson. Any discussion about the motion? If not, Deputy.
I have a question. So going by the diagram Jay has up there now, it's not the middle unit that's getting the deck. The proposed deck is closer to Morpeth Street?
Yes.
Okay, we've been talking about it being in the middle the whole time, where unit 7 is. So could you go back to the front view, please, Jay?
May I just suggest that I believe and I don't know because I haven't been in the building, that door you see on the right is 7. The deck will be to the side of that. And then it does line up similar to where the exit stair on the back is. But I'm not sure if inside
No, it doesn't.
7 goes all the way through.
Sorry.
Not perfectly, but the doors would not be lined up straight, but within a way that it would work in a unit. So you could have, if you look at it from the top view, that size would work as a unit. But I think you're right. The proponent can come back and give you better information. Like I would think if this is the top floor, this deck and that door could work in the same unit just because they're on the same.
Jay, could you go to diagram 4, please? Page
Diagram.
4. Page 4.
Okay, is that it?
Okay, so that is where that is the middle of the building. That's not the little cubby at the bottom is about 6 feet back from the edge of Morpeth Street. So where the stairwell is now is just off of the middle. If you go to the front view now, please, Jay. It does not line up with that doorway.
No, it doesn't. It's not a, I mean, this word from Member Kuntz was the asymmetry. It is a building that has been retrofitted to accommodate 10 units. So it doesn't balance well. Of course, I haven't been in the building. I'm not a tenant, so.
Yeah, no, and I understand that. I've been in there, but it's been a long time. But when we were talking earlier, we were talking about the middle door entrance with the deck going above it. So now it's looking at this building. It's
On
the
the right.
south side.
Yes.
Okay, so they want to go almost right to the edge and right to the middle between the two doorways? Would be if you said double in size?
Yeah, I think it's maybe not quite double. I'm very using general terms. It would probably be to the south side of the window that's with the dark. I'm not sure how to describe it. Another 5 feet to the south, not 10 feet to the south.
I don't have a problem with them building the deck. I just think we need more information. They haven't provided any drawing scales, what's going to happen. Like I said, I'd like to know about what the deck is made of so that there's nothing coming down through on the people coming out those doors.
Well, the motion's there, Mr. Chair.
So to confirm the motion moved by Councillor Rich and seconded by Deputy Mayor Matheson that this item be deferred until further information is provided to this committee. Any further discussion? I can't see all of the members of the club, so the club.
Mr. Legault would like to speak.
Yes.
Mr. Legault?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so the portion at the back that's underneath the stairs, am I to take it that's non-conforming as well? So that was added sometime after the fact and they didn't have permission for that?
No, that was added in the 2014 time.
So they do have permission and they do have the proper setbacks for that piece.
Yeah, my understanding, just to be clear, is what existed apart from the stairs was compliant with the 2014 decision of the committee.
Okay. And Jay, what are our options here? Could we approve the minor setback or the variance at the back of the building and disapprove the building of the deck?
I think that's within your power. You're not requested to, as a take it or leave it. You can approve what you think complies or what is appropriate, and with reasons say what is not appropriate, and attach any conditions that you see fit to support your recommendation as well.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Deputy Mayor Matheson.
I'd also like to add to, and if Mr. Rich would add this, that approval for the stairway only be given once the building department our inspectors have checked it to make sure that it is and meets standard.
I would add that.
I do need some, now you made me think, sorry to interrupt, is that if you're asking for a deferral on some and an approval on another, I'm not sure that's one of the available options.
Let's just defer the whole thing then, and then bring it back, and then we can have a hard look at it then, and then make sure that if it's done right. That's what I want to do. I don't want to have a whole bunch of questions about what's going on, and then what I often find in these things that we approve something even though there's a lot of questions about it, and I'd like to see us in the future be able to kind of build the community we want.
So to confirm right now, we have a motion on the floor to moved by Councillor Rich, seconded by Deputy Mayor Matheson, that this item be referred until such time further information is furnished to this committee. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the vote. Make me wait this voice, please, because I cannot see all the members. And now I can. Okay. All in favor of the motion? That is carried. Thank you. Our next item is item number 5.2, that is minor variance A-2020-057 by Melissa Berner and Jesse Ward with the municipal address, I believe, in the former town of Saugeen, Township of Saugeen, 138 North Shore Road, Ms. Mugabe.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject land is 138 North Shore Road in Port Elgin. I have here a photograph of the existing dwelling. There's a detached garage with a second floor that's under construction. It was discovered during the construction that the structure is in contravention to the height restrictions of the zoning bylaw. To rectify the violation, the subject minor variance application has been submitted and proposes to increase the maximum height, the maximum permitted garage height. This is a close-up shot of the garage. The original garage footprint was 54.6 square meters, and an additional 44.5 square meters has been added to create the second floor living area. According to the applicant, the proposed studio room / family room will be extra living space used for children's play area, for crafts and music. This is just another view of the garage. It's the south side. The subject land is within a residential area. Further west beyond the road is the lake. There is municipal water and septic system for servicing. And North Shore Road is a year-round municipal road. The purpose of the application is to facilitate construction of a second floor addition to the existing garage. The application seeks relief from the maximum height requirement for an accessory structure in a residential zone. The maximum permitted height is 5 meters, whereas 6.65 meters is proposed. The subject land is designated primary urban communities and hazard lands in the Bruce County official plan, and shoreline residential and environmental hazard in the local official plan. The zoning is environmental protection and residential forest density R1-2. The town has commented that the height of the garage is lower than the main structure and that this satisfies the intent of the zoning bylaw. That living space created above the garage shall conform to the zoning bylaw, which could restrict the creation of a secondary residential unit. They've advised that the chief building official is responsible for building code matters. There were no issues raised by other agencies or departments. We received comments from members of the public. There were objections to the minor variance application being submitted after construction has commenced. There were concerns about violations to the building code and zoning bylaw. There were questions about the formula for calculating height. There were objections to the lot lines depicted on county maps. And there were objections to the use of the garage for human habitation. There were concerns raised about the loss of views to the lake and for property values. I've attempted to address most of these comments and questions in the staff report. Building code matters will be addressed by the building department of the town, and they have no bearing on the subject minor variance application. The site complies with the yard setbacks of the zoning bylaw. There is a disclaimer on the Bruce County mapping and attribute data. The mapping is for illustrative purposes and not of a survey quality. Respecting the calculating of building height for an accessory structure in a residential area, the building department has verified that the garage height based on the drawing submitted is 6.65 meters. The town of Saugeen Shores has not taken the height of the dormer's eaves in the height calculation. The height will be from the main roof eaves to peak. The definition of height has been provided in the staff report. The zoning bylaw does not address views to the lake or property values. And I should also add that the garage exceeds the permitted height by slightly over 1.5 meters. If the height were lowered to comply with the zoning bylaw, the view of the lake from the Kaufman property would still be encumbered or blocked. The proposed second story is to be used as a studio/family room. The additional space is not considered habitable space because there is no bathroom and kitchen. Now on to the 4 tests of a minor variance. Test number 1. Does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the official plans? I would say the application maintains the intent and purpose of the official plan. A dwelling and accessory uses are permitted on the subject land. Test number 2. Does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? Section 3.1 includes provisions for permitted uses in all zones, and this includes accessory buildings and structures. The garage falls into this category of permitted uses. The site meets all other provisions of the zoning bylaw. Test number 3. Is the application desirable for the appropriate development of land, building, or structure? The proposal allows the landowner greater utilization of the subject lands by creating additional space in the garage. Therefore, the application is desirable from their perspective. Respecting public interest, the second story above the garage will not interfere with the functionality of the subject land, nor the adjoining neighbors' use of their lands. The height of the garage is consistent with the built form that has already been established on the site. The variance represents an appropriate form of development for the use of the land. Is the application minor in nature? Test number 4. The garage height is not higher than the building form that has already been established on the subject land. And in fact, if the garage were attached to the dwelling, the building height would have been permitted. There are no adverse impacts to municipal functions or to the environment. The variance is minor. As a summary, this minor variance is requested to facilitate the construction of a garage addition. The application is consistent with the provincial policy statement. It upholds the objectives of the Saugeen Shores official plan and represents good land use planning. The application satisfies the 4 tests of a minor variance. We are also recommending approval subject to the conditions on the decision sheet. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Mugabe. Is the applicant on the call?
Hey, good evening, committee. I am on the call. I'm Jesse. I'm the homeowner at 138.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Do you have any comments or any statements you wish to provide?
I don't have any comments for the application other than we're here to answer questions that the community has and the group has for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the public that are on the call? I've seen some come up and then disappearing.
So that when they get promoted to panelists, they move in.
Okay.
So he should be added, and Mr. Kaufman has been
Unmuted?
Mr. Kaufman, do you wish to address the committee?
Yes, we do, please.
Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you for providing Wayne and I the opportunity to comment on this minor variance application. We're not repeating many of the points indicated in our written deputation, as we were told that all vested parties would be provided with the opportunity to read our points and concerns with this minor variance request. In case some parties were not made aware, we are strongly opposed with the minor variance request. In addition to our written deputation, we would like to make the following comments, which we will gladly submit to you if you so desire in writing. The first question that this committee we feel needs to address is whether or not this is considered a minor variance. We feel that the application is not minor in nature, as the height of the actual building is 2.5 meters higher than the current bylaw allows. The 1.43 meter increase request does not take into account the height of the south bump out, which further blocks our view of Lake Huron. As you can see from the picture, if this was to be permitted, you would end up with a full 2-story building that is only 1.2 meters from the rear lot line. The cedar hedge that you see at the back of this structure is on the property line. The zoning bylaws for accessory buildings do restrict the height to 5 meters for good reason, as accessory buildings are allowed to be placed 1.2 meters from the rear lot line. If allowed to build higher than the 5 meters, they should have to follow the same bylaws as the main building on the lot, which would be a 7.5 meter setback from the rear lot line. The bylaw also states that accessory buildings are not intended to be occupied living space. We're aware that this has 2x6 constructed building aspects with its large windows and a door to the second floor patio facing the lake. It will be additional living space for this property, in our opinion, which is not allowed under the current bylaws. I would also like to point out bylaw 3.7 shoreline residential designation. This bylaw states in 3.7.2.1 that you need to maintain the character of the build form in the shoreline residential designation, including height, house style, height, and density and massing. This is no longer 1 2-story structure, but now 2, with an accessory building that is also, as indicated, a 2-story structure. 3.7.2.4, to preserve and enhance the natural visual quality of lake and river environments. We've lost our view of the lake as well as the natural beauty of it through the day and evening. 3.7.3.1, the predominant use of lands shall be for detached residential dwellings, both seasonal and permanent. As previously mentioned, there are now 2 2-story buildings at the front view of our property. 3.7.4.4.2, when considering applications for redevelopment, council and the approval authority shall ensure the proposed development maintains the build and natural character of the area, including height, massing, and density. This has not occurred as there are zoning bylaws that have not been adhered to with height, distance from the property line in respect to the height and the fact that the 2-story unit will have some form of occupancy. If this building height is allowed, it would not be possible to stand a ladder safely on the rear of the building to perform any maintenance without encroaching on our land, as it is that close to the property line, and it is a 26-foot high structure. As indicated in our written deputation, the structure has a huge negative impact on our property value as it significantly changes the aesthetic value and view and landscape for us, as we also face Lake Huron. Our final point is that even though we are able to provide you with a picture of this 2-story accessory structure, which gives a clear idea of the impact that it has on us, a minor variance request should have occurred prior to the building or construction. We would request that this structure is returned to an accessory building that meets the requirements set out by the zoning bylaws for our area. That picture that you see, by the way, is looking out our 8x6 foot master bedroom. We also have another bedroom that faces it and 18 feet of window in our family room that faces toward that as well. We'd be glad to address any questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Kaufman. Any other members of the public? If not, we'll move to committee. Any members of the committee that wish to discuss this or have questions, comments? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a number of questions. I guess I'll ask the Kaufmans first. Thank you for providing that picture, because that gives a very good perspective from your view. If the permissible height of the addition, as I understand it, is 5 meters, maybe just a confirmation from Barbara, is that true?
That is correct, through you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so Wayne and Deb, could you tell me how, if this structure was going to be only 5 meters, which is what's allowed without a variance, how would that affect your view then?
Great. Thank you, Councilor Grace. We would still be able to see out the roof of it as we could before. And it was an existing accessory building, and we had a great view of right over the top of it of Lake Huron. And I have to question the method they use to calculate the height, because if I do my homework and look up how to calculate the height calculation, I don't believe they took the bump out on the south side of the roof into account. And my calculations show the height, the mean height of that building being at 7.5 meters, which is 2.5 meters higher than the current bylaw will permit. If you calculate it on the north side, yes, you can come up with the 6.5, but the bump out creates more blockage of view. And if you measure from the sill of the bump out to the peak, there's only about a foot of difference. So I question that the method of calculating the height. So if it was restored to the 5 meter height, Councilor Grace, we would still have a view of Lake Huron.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, I have a couple of more questions if permitted. Okay.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
So my next question actually leads from the last point that Mr. Kaufman made, which is about the calculation of the height. Because I had a discussion with our chief building official yesterday about this, and was kind of surprised about how this is calculated. I wonder if either Jay or Barbara could comment on that. How are heights actually calculated? Because it's my understanding that the height as we look at it on the street is not exactly what the official height is. Is that true?
Well, perfectly. Well, if I may just answer this, is the height is defined in the zoning bylaw as measured from the average finished grade around the outside of the building to the average height between the peak and the eaves. So it's maybe not quite 50%. But over time, we've also built a consistent approach to how dormers and bump outs get included, and it's based on the amount of the dormer or the bump out that occupies the roof space. If it's less than 50%, we take the overall roof. If it's more, then we do take into consideration dormers and bump outs if they occupy more than 50% of the roof space.
Okay, I have another follow-up question related to that. This was in Barbara's report. The diagram submitted by the applicant, the diagram that's labeled section A, shows a height of 21.6 feet. And the diagram labeled south elevation shows a height of 26 feet. Is the 21.6 feet, that's the internal height? I'm just looking for why that difference. I'm referring to the diagram that has the height in red. I don't have a specific page reference, I'm sorry.
21 feet and a half to the peak. And for the eaves, it's 17 feet. I can't make out the other number.
And there's another diagram, the south elevation on that shows a height of 26 feet.
Yes. 26 feet to the top and 17 feet, 8 inches to the to the beginning of the roof. And the roof is 8 feet. I can't read the inches. 8 feet, possibly 4 inches.
Okay.
So the height of the building to the peak is 26 feet.
Okay. And so the application is for 6.65 meters, which is not 26 feet. How do we square those two facts?
Well, in my view, it's because we're varying the bylaw. So the provision for measuring height is in the bylaw. You're not varying the definition. When I measured the difference between, or the height, so from the 17 and a half feet approximately to the peak at 26 feet, and divide, you get the midpoint, it's at 6.62 meters. And so they're requesting 6.65 meters. Just for a bit of wiggle room.
Well, that's what you were referring to earlier. Okay. That was surprising to me to learn about the fact that shows you my naivete, I guess.
Well, I mean, we could do better at teaching about these intricacies, but it's pretty common height in the bylaws throughout this region of Ontario.
Okay, Mr. Chair, if I can ask, I have a question for the applicant. If, Mr. Ward, if this was to be, if this was not approved, if this was to be built to the 5-meter height, rebuilt, how much would that cost? Do you have any idea?
I haven't come up with cost yet. I don't know if that's something that we.
I'm Mark Berner here, the contractor. To demolish the building and rebuild it back to its original state would be, probably in the $70,000 range.
Okay, thank you. I wonder if Barbara, or Jay, if you could explain the timeline of the application. What happened here in terms of staff? Was the original application granted? The permit was granted? Is that true?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we first heard of the development through the town's building department that the building was under construction, that it did not meet the zoning bylaw. So it was already under construction at the time that we received the minor variance application.
Okay, but
From the town's perspective, we issued a permit, and once it was recognized, it was that we issued it in error. We asked the applicant if they wanted to proceed with the variance.
okay. I just have one final comment, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
This is a very difficult application because we have the applicants who were allowed to build because of an error on the part of the municipality. And I think that some of the neighbors' comments recognize that. I don't want to be criticizing our building staff. Everybody makes mistakes. All of us do. This was not an intentional thing. It was an error. But now we have applicants who have made an investment based on, I guess, what appears to me a good faith understanding that they were able to proceed with this. And yet we also have neighbors who I don't believe that, in my opinion, this is, it would meet the test of the variance is minor in nature in terms of the effect upon neighbors, because I do think that their enjoyment of their property is going to be affected in a way that is detrimental. So I don't know. I don't know how this is fairly solved, and I would look forward to hearing other committee members' comments.
Thank you, Councillor Grace. Anyone else? Mr. Legault.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, it does seem like a very difficult decision to make as far as approving this minor variance after the fact. And considering the fact that it was an error on the municipality, is there an option to send this to council for a decision?
Question for me, Mr. Chair. Certainly the option is not, this committee cannot delegate to council. What it can do is refuse it and make a recommendation that this be proceed by a zoning bylaw amendment that would put it in council's hands, but this also will add time and money. If you're looking for that, that's my sense of the process, if this is what you'd like.
I'm just throwing it out there. I think it's a big decision for this committee to make.
Ms. Kuntz. Microphone, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and through you. I share all the concerns mentioned by Councillor Grace and Member Legault. I wonder if it is the job of the Committee of Adjustments to rectify an error made by the municipality. And to that end, should we even be trying to do that? I understand all the interests, and they are in conflict with each other, those interests, and I am sympathetic to all of them. But I do wonder whether it is whether we should be in this position to try and solve this problem. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rich. Microphone, please.
It's my belief that we should allow this to go to a vote. I won't be voting. I won't be supporting it. And then if the applicant wishes to bring it back with changes, then we can go from there.
Mr. Posner?
Well, I mean, certainly you may perceive it as trying to rectify an error from town. There's still an application for changes to the zoning bylaw. You have the power to make a decision. You have a planner's report that makes a recommendation, an opinion from neighbors that differs from that. And you can, I think you have information enough to make a decision if you want.
Mr. Kaufman. Your microphone.
Yeah, the problem is there was a mistake made, and we just heard that it may be a cost of $70,000. And to me, I feel sorry for the landowner, because someone did make a mistake. This should have never gotten to the stage it's at. We shouldn't be looking out our window at this building right now. And someone needs to fix the mistake. And whether it's this committee or who it is, but this mistake needs to be rectified. And I don't agree with Jay saying that you have the power to rectify this and approve this zoning change, because there was a mistake. We're looking at a building that's already there. And we shouldn't even be talking about a building that's already there. We should have been talking about a building that they want to build, not one that they have to tear down to fix. So I feel that someone did make a mistake. You're correct. And to rectify that, we need to back up here and push it back and say, how can we fix this? I understand also that the town did turn down the first application for a building permit. And then the builder provided the second one that the town approved. I also understand that it's on a floating slab that has not been engineered. So if that's the case, then I hope they have an engineered stamp drawing that will support a second story, because a floating slab will not meet building code in Ontario for 2 stories. And I submitted all that information in our written deputation. I know this panel cannot look at building code. However, if this is approved, then the building code needs to be investigated, and the engineer that stamped the drawings, I'd like to see the information that he provided. Did he check for compaction underneath the poured slab? I know other building departments that I've communicated with won't even consider a second story on a poured slab, a floating slab. So this whole thing is a mess. And I think we need to back up and start and do things properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Councillor Rich.
I think we should vote on what we can vote on and move forward from there. And then anything that can be rectified, I think that we have to work within our own capacity.
Thank you. I think we're bereft of a solution. I'll entertain a motion from anyone. Mr. Posner.
If you're very reluctant, you do have the option of making no decision and then allowing the applicant to appeal the lack of a decision, to put it that way.
I'd say we should do that.
Ms. Kuntz.
Is there any possibility here for some kind of problem-solving person or collection of persons to try and bridge the divide here and to make a recommendation that takes into account all of the concerns that have been expressed here? Is there any way that we can have somebody or 2 people or 3 people who represent the interests of the municipality, the homeowners, and the neighbors, and the committee as well, to try and come up with some kind of recommendation that has mitigated this situation or addressed it or acknowledged it at least? I just think that we're at a bit of an impasse here, and it's a problem that needs to be solved. So I'm just wondering if there is a possibility for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Kuntz. Mr. Poster, do you have a comment?
No, I just wanted to lay out your options again. Like, if you're expressing a lot of reluctance to approve, so if the alternative to approve is defer with very clear instructions on what it needs to happen, I'm not sensing a clear path in that. You can do nothing. It certainly doesn't lead the town anywhere, by the way, or you can refuse it and then let the applicant appeal it. That's always an option. I mean, those are the options that I see.
Deputy Mayor Matheson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Ward, Mr. Berner, question for you. The second story, will it be a living space?
Hey, Mr. Matheson, it is not a living space. It's a studio / family room for my daughter and the family. As you've seen from the pictures of our house, we live in an old cottage that's been renovated at numerous times over the years. We bought it in 2018 while we were living out west in California. Returned home to the Bruce County area last summer and started doing renovations on the house. This is a room that allows my daughter space to play, art supplies, music, basically a bonus room.
Will there be a washroom facility in that space?
No, there's no running water. There's no kitchen. There's no bathroom. There's no into that.
So you go upstairs to play, and then you got to come back down into the house if they need to go use a washroom facility.
Exactly.
Okay. Again, I see this is a very, very tough decision. I understand where the Kaufmans are coming from. Most of this is building code issues that go beyond the Committee of Adjustment. Blocking or taking away view is not grounds for stopping a variance, but it is, we have so many issues here. I would like to follow along with Councillor Rich and say no, and then we can take that up with the birders. Mr. Ward can then take it up through the town, and we can move on to it from there.
Councillor Rich.
Can we call the vote?
One moment, Mr. Legault. Your microphone.
I agree with Councillor Rich and Vice Deputy Mayor or Deputy Mayor Matheson. And I think that we should actually put the motion on the floor and vote for it. I will not be supporting it. And this way, I think if we can come to a decision from this committee, it will help move this, keep this application moving and get it to the next level.
Thank you. Who would like to move the motion? Moved by Mr. Legault, seconded by Councillor Rich. Any discussion? So the motion is to approve this application subject to the conditions on the. What motion do we? Deputy Mayor Matheson, what is the motion that you?
Is the motion not to? Oh, sorry. Yes, it is. Sorry, my apologies. It's whether we voted on it. Sorry,
correct.
Mr. Chair.
So we have a motion on the floor based on the recommendations of the planner, Ms. Mugabe, that we do so approve this construction subject to the conditions on the condition sheet. All in favor? Those opposed? Denied. Thank you, committee. Our next meeting date will be tentatively scheduled for the 16th of January 2021. May I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Deputy Mayor Matheson, seconded by Councillor Rich. All in favor?